Hello, and welcome to our second video in our development preview of the DQ Systems FireEyes Firebug plugin. Today I'm going to show you some of the features that we have that can help you to determine what exactly is causing accessibility issues and to investigate and fix those issues using FireEyes and Firebug. I'm going to do this on my favorite dynamic site, Facebook. So let me go into Facebook here and I'm going to search for one of my friends. I'm going to search for Roberta. So as I enter the name R-O-B, you see Facebook making suggestions for my former boss Rob Gruen. But as I continue to type the rest of Roberta, his image disappears and others appear. Okay, so when I find the one I'm interested in, I click on it and away I go. So one of the difficult things about analyzing the content for dynamic applications like Facebook is the fact that the content on the page is transient. So that means that what's there now is not guaranteed to be there in 5 minutes, or in the case of this search suggestion box, not even in 5 seconds. So because the page is updating all the time, you cannot really rely on the user to tell you when to analyze the content, because you might miss things that are important. So you would not be able to test for things like ARIA live region support, for example. So what FireEyes does is it monitors the page for all the updates to the page, and it looks at what those updates are, and based on what the current settings are, it decides what analyses to do. But it does that in such a way that the user experience is still responsive, so it yields enough back to the application so that the application can respond. So essentially it's doing the analysis in the background while the user or developer is interacting with the web application. Also, one of the other issues you have with dynamic applications is you cannot assume, because the URL is the same as the one that generated the issue, that the content is present on the page when the user is analyzing the results of the analysis. You need to be a little bit more intelligent about it. So FireEyes does a couple of things here. Firstly, FireEyes tracks and interleaves the events, the content changes, and the resulting issues in a timeline. That gives you all the information that you need to determine what actually happened. Here I can see, for example, that the page was loaded, and that resulted in a change, which is the result of the URL changing. There's not a big surprise there. Then I can see that there were some issues, a bunch of issues associated with images. At the moment I'm just evaluating images for alt tags and things like that. Then I can see some of the other events here. So if I go down a little bit, I can see the click event when I clicked into the input field. I can see the key presses where I started to enter the search terms, and those resulted in some issues with the images that appeared right there. So I go down a little bit later, I see some more inputs, etc. Those resulted in issues, some more inputs that resulted in issues. So let me show you how we deal with that. So now if I'm looking at this image tag here, I can see what the image tag is, but there's nothing there to tell me which image it is. I don't know. There's some kind of automatic generated ID once again here from Facebook. If I try to inspect that tag's no longer on the page. So FireEyes knows whether the content is still on the page, and if it's not, it tells you that. But then what it does, more importantly, for these types of pages that are dynamic and transient like this, it gives you a button that allows you to then replay everything that's happened up to that point so you can get that image back. So if I press the replay button here, now you see all the events that are replaying. So it went back to the page that I started on, and now it's going to replay the focus event, and then the click event, and then the key press event. And eventually, as it does that, you'll see the content start to appear. There's Rob's image, and what it then does is it tells you that it's paused at the issue. So now when we go back to the report tab, I can then see the highlighted issue that it stopped at. And when I click the inspect button, now I can actually get to the content of this image that you can see, Rob Gruen's image. I can get to that content and I can inspect it. I can see that the alt tag is empty. And so it allows me to then do everything I need to figure out what's causing that and to fix that. So once again, this is one of the examples of one of the pieces of functionality that's quite cool and unique to us. The free public beta will be starting in June. So sign up at http://www.dq.com/product/dq-labs, and follow us on Twitter at dequelabs.